So time for a new update. This weekend we have seen quite some wild action in the markets. Not only for crypto, where we saw since Thursday this sell-off, which continued into the weekend, but we have also seen gold making crazy moves after topping out, which is now down 20% in a few days, and silver had like a 40% decline, so a pretty wild move. But let's keep focused on crypto for now. So what we had last week, let's go back a bit longer, is that we of course had this range we have been talking about since the start, and also about this bearish PO3 idea. You can watch back the former videos, but at this move we're already talking about it, and also the comparison with the 2022 fractal, where as soon as price fell back into the value area high in 2022, we said if it falls back there, then the PO3 is confirmed, and then rotation back to the lows is very likely. And we can see that that played out perfectly, where price came under the value area high, sold off. Then here we had local range, which broke down last Wednesday, and since then price basically took out the ultimate range lows and is now at a pretty important price point. So to show you that, let's go back to the 2022 fractal, where price had the range low, range high, deviation above, and as said, as soon as price fell back below the value area high, right there, we see that price lost it, retested it, and then also consolidated for a bit, sold off, took out the range lows. So what we currently have is that we are in a very similar situation, where we are right now around this level. So let's clean up the chart a little bit. There we can see that price came to the range low, then also came at the deviation threshold. So if this is our range low, this is our range high, this is the deviation, then technically we can extend it there. And then this is our current deviation threshold. It is a red line right here. And we can see that price wicked below it, but did not close below it, and then consolidated here for a while. But it never reclaimed the range. So this was basically a failed range reclaim, and then a sell off. So if we zoom in a bit more, let's see where it is. Right here. Then what happened in this part? So you are basically trending down. So low, lower high, lower low. So then you can pull your range from low to high. And then this is basically your range low, range high. Then here we see price consolidated for a while right here, took out the range high, formed like a redistribution in the form of a local PO3, or you can see it like a 1, 2, 3, a Wyckoff model 2, which broke structure back to bearish, and then there was no volume in this lower part of the range right here, which you can also see if we take the volume profile. So at this point you can see that all the volume was concentrated at the upper part of the range and not in the lower part. So as soon as you break into that lower part, you had a very quick move down, and there the downtrend continued with a lot move down, a new range creation, and this range was eventually the bottom. We're at a range low, range high, a very back deviation, but it stayed within the deviation threshold, and from there the uptrend to all-time highs began. So if we compare that to current price action, we have to see if price manages to stay within the deviation threshold, which it is doing for now. We can see on the 12 hour that the closes are in a deviation threshold. So as long as that's the case, you can look for this potentially being a deviation. And then if you get acceptance back in your range, first we need to clear this supply, but then we can look for potential a bullish PO3. Basically the exact opposite of what we had here, where we had the bearish PO3, then it can turn into a bullish PO3. However, in order to do that, it needs to reclaim the range, because in 2022 we also had this move, which then eventually, as I just showed, let's delete this, mitigate it. Let's say we are trending down, so we pull range from low to high. Then this is step 1, step 2, so we can extend the range right there. And then this is the range high. So step 1, this is step 2. But in order to reclaim the range, we need to reclaim this level right here, which is also the deviation threshold right now. So what you don't want to see is that we do this and then break back in the range and then form something similar as we had in 2022, where this local range turned into a redistribution and then break lower, and then you break below your deviation threshold, and then you have a confirmed range breakdown. So that's not what you want to see. What the bulls want to see is that you preferably form like a model 2 right here, or a model 1, depends on what we get, but then you have an accumulation model, and then you need to break above your local deviation threshold, also the range low of the former range, and then continue higher. And then this can be seen as a potential very big bullish PO3 right here. So that would be the bullish case, but we can't ignore the bearish case outcome as well. So it's going to be pretty important this week if we get closest below the deviation threshold right here, or above. So that's what to look for this week. And today I'm watching this range. Do we get a potential distribution if we go to the highs first, or an accumulation? And then most important structure right now, if we look from the top, is this lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So this is also our local structure. So if we manage to break above and hold, then you also break your local structure back to bullish. But if you SFP it, then you have a range high deviation and a swing failure of your bearish market structure, which means that this becomes your target low again. So if we get a move here, you want a hold and close above it, and not just a shallow move and then down. So that's what to look for. For now, structure is bearish, but if this turns into a local accumulation, it can potentially turn into something better. And let's see, just below from 72k we have a, let's see, 3-day range demand, where if you look at the structure, basically at this whole zone is basically a box, because this is your move basically, right, this. But if you dissect this last move into some more structure, so from low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and then this is the aggressive move that started the uptrend. So this is your most important demand, and that's just below here. So we can make a move into it, but if we do that, it should be a quick move. Else, yeah, we have that bearish idea, because we broke this local range to the downside, in which this becomes a potential outcome. So that are the important levels to watch. And as said, locally I have these levels with one, this is the model 2 demand, model 1 also possible, in which we have 1, 2, 3 right here. But if we do that, the low should be formed today or tomorrow, based on statistics. And yeah, the hourly structure, which I just showed, is like this high to here. But you can also dissect that lower time frame internal structure, in which you have high, low, lower high, low, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. And some people say that this is your structure, but you have to see what is the high that brings you into the absolute low. So this is not a move that brings you into a new low. If it would have made a new low, then this would have been your structure. But right now, this is the high that brings you into this low. So this is your internal structure as well. And we can see the price now sitting around that level. So first sign of strength would be to close above here, then look for potential higher low, and then see what happens at the range high, which is a very important level. So in my opinion, pretty clean levels to work with. Here we have some nice buy side liquidity above. With the gap, this is also weekend. I think we have the CME gap around a little higher probably, because we dumped quite hard this weekend. So market closed here. So we have a gap, I believe. So we have to see if price is able to hold above that range. And then we can look for potential backtest, hold, and then continuation higher. For now, yeah, most things are structure on almost all time frames is still bearish. So yeah, bulls have a lot of work to do. First sign of strength would be the move above here. So let's see what happens in an hour. New York opens. So yeah, last few weeks they have been selling like crazy. So gonna be important to see what happens right there. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.